In this presentation, I will discuss how to review a research article or how to complete a research article critique for this class. Items included in this presentation will include how to select a research article, which components need to be included in the research article, and a little bit about what the final product should look like for a research article critique in this class. The first thing is selecting an article. You should definitely use the HBU library resources and the HBU librarians as a good source for helping you select an article for this course. When selecting articles, this class specifically was designed so that all of the articles you selected should be articles that you will then be able to use in your Chapter 2 of your dissertation. As many of you know at this point in your doctoral program, for the dissertation, you'll be writing a 5-chapter dissertation. Chapter 1 is the introduction, Chapter 2 is the literature review, Chapter 3 is the methods, Chapter 4 is the results or the findings, and Chapter 5 is the conclusion. In Chapter 2, you will review many research articles. And over the course of this class specifically, you will conduct a review of a minimum of 10 articles, which should then be able to be used in your dissertation. If you are not far enough along in the dissertation process to use these 10 articles, make your best guess about what you anticipate your dissertation research topic will be. There are a couple of important components to consider when selecting an article to be included in your article critiques for the class for the semester. One important criteria is to make sure that the articles that you select are peer-reviewed articles. When you are searching the HBU database, on the left-hand side, there is a checkbox to select only peer-reviewed articles. It is my recommendation that you select the only peer-reviewed articles when you're conducting a search. This will pull up articles in your results when you conduct a search that have been peer-reviewed, which means they've gone through a rigorous process of being reviewed by other scholars before they're able to be published. The second criteria that should be included in the articles for your article critique is that they should have been published within the last 10 years. Newer is always better when we're discussing dissertation. You want to make sure that your dissertation topics have not been covered in other forms of research and that you are truly adding to the body of knowledge. There are a few exceptions in your Chapter 2 where you may include articles that are older, but those articles tend to be cited very frequently or to be cited to be seminal articles, meaning they are foundational or original articles to the field, and many people have built upon them. It is possible to look in the library database and in Google Scholar to see how many times an article has been cited, and so it may be a good idea to go and look and see, are your articles that are being used frequently? Another consideration when you're looking at articles within the past 10 years is that articles within the past 10 years generally have newer references. Some students have a difficult time finding enough references or finding references specific enough for their dissertation topic. One of the things that I recommend for students to do is to find an article or two that matches very closely to their dissertation topic, and then to go and find in the reference section other articles that are closely related to the article that you found. In research, we expect that if you are citing an article in an article critique or in a paper, that you have read the original article itself. So once you go to that reference section, you can then go find those articles and read and review them and use them. If the article is not available easily through the Houston Baptist University Library, you have other options such as your local public library, Google Scholar, or interlibrary loan through the Houston Baptist University, also referred to as ILL. Another thing to consider when selecting an article is the impact factor. Most articles and most journals have an impact factor related to the journal that is published in. The impact factor lets you know how widely used that journal is within the field, how many times it has been cited in other peer-reviewed articles, and the impact that that journal has on the field for which it is providing research. Another important factor is to only include empirical research studies. Empirical research studies are original research studies. In some journals, opinion pieces, book reviews, or literature reviews may also be published and still be peer-reviewed. For this class, given that it is a research class, we are asking students to find articles that are original research studies. Next, we have quantitative versus qualitative versus mixed methods. In this class, the expectation for the 10 articles is that they will all be quantitative or mixed methods in nature. This means that the data that is used in the empirical research studies is numerical in nature. Generally, these articles will have such things as correlations, causal comparative, multiple linear regressions, structural equation models, to name a few. Quantitative research articles again have numerical data, and they generally work with a larger sample size than many of the qualitative counterparts. Qualitative studies include such studies as narrative, ethnography, and sometimes case studies as well. Mixed method articles use both qualitative and quantitative data gathering and collecting procedures and data analysis procedures. Again, for this course specifically, we're asking that you focus on quantitative articles and possibly a few mixed methods if need be. There are several components in a research paper. These components include the introduction, methods, results, and discussion sections, and are sometimes referred to as IMRAD. In the introduction, the author introduces the topic, important literature, hooks the reader into reading more about the research topic and the research that was conducted in this study, and sometimes unfolds a literature review with important studies related to the topic at hand. In the methods section, the researcher very carefully details the methods used in the current research study. These methods include quantitative or qualitative methods or mixed methods. They also include the sampling procedures, the type of analysis, descriptive statistics, and the overall goals and research questions associated with the study. In the results sections, many times students will find the findings or the results from the analysis that was designed in the methods section. And then finally, in the discussion section, authors will discuss the findings and how they apply to their field and whether the findings match their hypothesis or their statement of the problem. These sections can be called many different things. They do not have to follow these words specifically. For example, the results section could be called results or findings. The discussion section could also be called conclusions. So just be aware that various authors and various journals may rename these sections, but in many times you'll find all of these components present in a research article. An overview of your assignment for this class, the article critique. Specifically, during your article critique, we are asking students to find strengths associated with the article, weaknesses associated with the article, summary of the article, which includes research design, sample, methods, results, findings, and an APA formatted reference page where the article that is being critiqued is also put into APA formatted reference page. Strengths and weaknesses. In this section of the article critique, we are not asking students to give their personal opinions about the article. What we are expecting is that students will look at best practices, based on the readings from the textbook and the readings of other articles, and standards for articles. As you begin this class, this may be the first time that you are really digging into reading original journal articles and research articles, and so this class will be a building class. At the beginning, this component may be weaker for you, but as you receive feedback from your peers and from your professor, you will grow in your knowledge about reading and understanding research articles. So don't be overwhelmed by being asked to find strengths and weaknesses, but focus on the things that you do know about research. Focus on sample size, focus on research questions, focus on the findings. Do they apply in your setting? Do they make sense? Are they generalizable? Those kinds of things. And as you build in your knowledge throughout this course, you'll be able to add to the categories of things that you are able to critique about the strengths and weaknesses of a article that you are critiquing. Next, you'll be expected to conduct a summary of the article. This should, in reality, be a summary. You do not need to spend paragraphs talking about the sample size or even the methods used in the article. Think about sentences that capture as much information as possible. In the summary, you should include things such as the research design or the methods that were used, the research questions or hypotheses or the statements of the problem. You may also include things about the sample. How was the sample collected? What was the sample size? And were these sufficient for the research study at hand? You will also discuss the methods section. What type of analysis was conducted through this research study? The results section. Were the findings presented clearly? And what results were presented about this specific research study? And then any conclusions or further research may also be discussed. In this section, the professors will be looking to see that you understand the articles that you've read, at least in part. As in previous sections, as you begin this 8-week course, you will not have a great understanding or great exposure to research articles. But over the course of our 8 weeks together, you will learn more and you will read more articles, and so this will increase in rigor and increase in levels of understanding based on the topics that you will learn in this course. Things not to include. If your summary is longer than the research article itself, then it's no longer a summary. So you don't need to include every detail of everything that happens. Part of learning to write scholarly and with an academic voice is being able to be concise and succinct at times. So this assignment is not about writing long paragraphs and expounding upon things that are in the research article. It truly is getting you to interact with the article, to pull out the important pieces, and to write a concise summary of the article that you are critiquing. To this end, it is the expectation in this class that when you submit an article critique, you will also submit a copy of the original article. This helps those who are peer reviewing and the professor to see the original article that you are summarizing and to make sure A, that you have summarized the article correctly, B, that you haven't just copied straight from the article, and C, that you have not left anything out that is important. Finally, at the end of your article critique, you will be expected to include an APA formatted reference page. This reference page is really designed to assist you through the dissertation writing process. At the end of your dissertation, there will be a reference section in which you include the citations for all of the articles referenced throughout your entire 5-chapter dissertation. To this end, students are expected to have a reference page And in many cases, the only reference that will be on the reference page for your article critique will be the actual article that you are critiquing. It is important that you follow the standards in the APA manual when writing the reference page. It is also important that you not only format the reference correctly, but that you have all the components required for a reference. These components generally include the author name, the year the journal was published, the title of the article, the title of the journal where the article was published, the issue and volume number, and the DOI, the Digital Object Identifier. As we've moved more and more into the technology age, every article has been given a unique digital object identifier. So it's important that you include that at the end of the reference. Many students forget the DOI, but it is important that you include. Also, when formatting, it is important that you include all of the important formatting pieces. Be careful to look for capitalization where it is required and not required, that you look for italics that should be usually applied to the journal name and the issue number, but not the volume number. If you have specific questions about APA formatting, again, it is always best to refer back to the APA manual. Additionally, there are several resources through the Houston Baptist University Library LibGuides or library guides specifically designed to help students learn and apply APA formatting skills.